The lights out modifier. It's something, but it's something better than nothing. That is the question of the hour, I guess. It is a very fair criticism to say that this new modifier is just that, a modifier. It's not a new game mode, and I do think Behavior was right in calling it a modifier. It modifies the already existing game mode. It doesn't completely reintroduce new objectives. And some people calling this a new game mode are not really lying by any definition of the word. I don't think they're lying. I think simply they're miscategorizing it, and I think Behavior actually categorized it pretty well. Wow, Behavior does something right. It's pretty rare, to be honest. But let's talk about the game mode itself. It's pretty simplistic. I'm sure you've played it for a few matches, then got bored. The main enticement for playing this mode is that you really don't lose anything for playing it. You don't lose add-ons, you don't lose items, you don't lose offerings because you can't use them. And also, both sides usually have at least 100%, and most of the time, one side, usually Survivor, has 150% blood points, which might sound really enticing, but not all the time. Something you might have heard is that this mode is completely separate from the normal pool of play, meaning there's no MMR in the game. However, this doesn't mean that you won't get any sort of rank upgrade, because as you know, rank doesn't equal MMR. You can be an iridescent 1 and still play with the dumbest of brains. It is fair to say, though, that a lot of people will use MMR as an excuse to play in an unfun way. They want to play in an unfun way in order to get their MMR higher, which I think is 100% fine. But in this game mode, there is no MMR, so that excuse can't be used. Camping, snuggling, and tunneling are an issue in this mode, but I think that's just an issue with Dead by Daylight as a whole. And having a lack of information and overall less information completely in this mode kind of condenses the game into its fundamentals, including its problems and its strengths. DBD's strength is your ability to communicate with your team if you're in a Swift, or your ability to adapt to the way the killer plays, and the killer the same way, to be able to kill survivors as soon as possible. And unfortunately, one of the most efficient ways to kill survivors is to tunnel into Camp Hook. In this mode, like I said, just condenses the game down to those fundamental problems and strengths. Now, do I think this is a good modifier? I'm kind of worried if this is what's considered a good modifier by the developers. If you don't know, if you play day one, you would know that there was a lot of connection issues. You'd just be booted out of nowhere. You would simply load into the match. You know the entire thing when players disconnect, it just cancels the match so you don't get loaded in with only 3 survivors? Well, it does that, but nobody left. Simply the game couldn't process an entirely new modifier. Which means I can only assume how bad it's going to be when they start introducing actual game modes. I think this was more of a testing the water to see how their game and their system would work with something very simple. And if it already caused these issues where it's just full on almost crashing the game, at least the session, but if it's going to cause all these issues, I think the developers are really worried of what it's going to do to the actual game modes. We do have an event on the horizon coming out in March, and by the portrait, I'm kind of hoping it doesn't come as a modifier because if it is a modifier, it looks like it might just be lights out, but red with blood coming out. I highly doubt this event's going to be a modifier. I think it'd be way too soon for them to introduce another modifier, because if they do introduce the same modifier but red, it will clearly show that the modifier is just a gimmick that people are going to play for maybe 2 matches and then stop playing it for its entire incorporation to the game, which I think a variety of play is what we want, but we don't want limited time variety of play that's just the same thing again and again and again, just recolored and with less stuff. The big thing about DBD is being able to play in multiple ways, play as multiple survivors and killers, which you can still do in Lights Out, but you can't play with multiple different styles of play with the killer. You can't just simply, for example, you can't run Freddy at all, or you can't run pallets, you just can't. So should we expect other modes like this? Maybe. Should we expect more actual game modes in the future? I hope so. There are a few that I don't want, which a lot of people aren't going to agree with. I do not want prop hunt or hide and seek. What is the worst thing about DBD as a killer? Finding immersed survivors. That is the worst thing, of course, other than bully squads and all that shit, but bully squads aren't as bad as they used to be. But still, finding immersed survivors and trying to kill immersed survivors is so fucking annoying. So just imagine an entire game mode geared around that. It's cool for the novelty of it, but it's one of the worst things about DBD as a killer. But that is one man's opinion. I do think that more complex game modes are needed, and if modifiers are coming, they need to come far between each other and need to have more variety between them. If it's just going to be lights out but different colors or slightly different tweaks, I'm not sure if I'm going to like it. But yeah, like I said, that's just one man's opinion. If you disagree, go on and disagree in the comments all you want. I 100% think that the best way to find the best possible future for this game is discussion. Whether you and I will never shift our opinions, that's fine. At least we try to find a common ground. If you did enjoy this video and you actually want to see me play DBD tonight, I'm going to be streaming, I believe, 6:30 CST today as a trickster, mainly, to celebrate Valentine's Day. By the way, happy Valentine's Day. Hope you have a Valentine. If you don't, I'll be your Valentine in my stream. I hope to see many of you there. Without further ado, hope you did enjoy this video. Bye.